Chapter 276, Captive Audience. What do you mean, everyone is gone? Ori scowls after the duo explains recent events. Arasaka had someone located their base and performed a coordinated assault. Someone had sabotaged their security systems and given the F***Kers a tour guide on the place. They barreled through after breaching the entrance, blasting David with an EMP before putting him down with tasers. Rebecca fought back with a holdout pistol, but she went down next too. Sasha, Kiwi, and Falco had been close by the security room during this, allowing them to see it all on the cams. David, Leo, Rebecca, Lucy, and Kiwi were gone, kidnapped. And if Ori hadn't come back when he did, Falco and Sasha would have been next. What else is there to say? Those suits ran off with them. Falco sighs, lifting his hat and rubbing the back of his head, only to awkwardly pull away at the red staining his fingers. Hopefully, that wasn't his blood. We need to leave. Arasaka will send more men here soon, and we already know where our friends are. Sasha adds. We'll take the AV. I'll drop you off at the Aldecaldos and move into the city. Rogue probably knows something, even if it isn't immediately useful. Sounds like a plan. First we need to stash what we can in it though. No point getting the short stack back if she guts us for forgetting her guns. Falco shrugs. David's eyes flutter open as he lets out a groan. He instinctively tugs his arm but pauses at the sound of jangling chains hit him, along with his inability to move. Wait, what? He looks down at the chair he was restrained in, arms held down to the armrests, along with the heavy collar around his neck that occasionally beeped like a depleted fire alarm. Another collar, he grumbles as he glances around, spotting Kiwi, Lucy, and a gagged Rebecca nearby in similarly dire straits. The short stack was awake, struggling against her bonds with a furious glare. Lucy, Kiwi, he exclaims, trying to wake them up. I'm afraid there will be out of sorts for some time still. Runners can be a pain to hold. So we extracted their neuralware? David turns to the speaker and pales as he sees her, Hanako Arasaka, with Atom Smasher and another highly modded ninja. We would have done the same for you, if the Sandevistan in your possession wasn't the only thing keeping you alive. What? Did you think all Sandevistans required full removal of the spine? Hanako disdainfully shakes her head. Any attempt to remove or replace it now would leave you a paralyzed husk. Not that this option is yet off the table. David's eyes trail to Lucy, specifically the deep dive port that was usually covered by synth skin. There was scar tissue around her temples, a quick hack job at removing her implants without caution for aftercare. Kiwi was similar, except they'd removed her entire lower jaw too, leaving her tongue dangling morosely from the hole in her face. What did you do to the others? He grouses, wondering where Sasha, Falco, and Leo were. Some of your associates managed to escape, that is fine. I am counting on your camaraderie. MMMFFPPH. Rebecca's angry, muffled shouts drew attention, resulting in Smasher stomping over to her. Quiet, meat, he growls, gripping a ponytail and pulling on it hard enough to topple her over. Smasher, bet you're feeling real fucking manly after the boss almost took your head off. Figures you'd come after us when you're scared shitless dash. Thud. David's teeth crack and his jaw breaks as he's backhanded into a nearby wall, the chair restraining him shattering and allowing the chains to drop to the floor. He rolls to the side, ignoring the sharp pains in his face, then sprints straight for Hanako, only to stop when the ninja draws a glowing red mantis blade from his wrist and rests it on his neck. Cease your foolishness. Hanako-sama still wishes to negotiate. Oni, cease your belligerence. Fuck off spandex. The board growls in response before stomping out of the room, hands twitching, grasping, and releasing habitually. Hanako looks to David and gestures at the spare chair in the corner. Please sit. We have much to discuss. The Merc continues to glare at her, stubbornness overriding instinctual fear of the heated blade near his throat. After a couple seconds, he relents, reluctantly stepping away and leaning against the chair in a ready stance. Get your threats over with. She quirks an unamused brow at him, stepping her gold-covered fingers. If it is threats you want, it is threats you'll have. She drops a finger in his friend's direction. Obey, or they will all die. Or worse. And how am I supposed to know you won't do that anyway? Arasaka don't have the best rep around? He retorts, tone spiteful. You will have my word as heiress and CEO of Arasaka. I will even have legally binding contracts written if you wish. Just know that any agreement we make here today may not be changed afterwards. She lets out a sigh. I see I will have to convince you then. I will start with the biggest objection you are sure to have. I want you to kill Zombie, Orville Quadrano. Go F***K yourself. He spits before he's even aware of his mouth moving. He doesn't take his words back, however. His response would have been the same, if more polite given the situation. She nods and lets out a tired breath. Take a hand, she states simply. David blinks as blood splashes. Lucy's left hand flies as the ninja's blade cuts through it. His input doesn't even react. Whatever surgery they performed on her was keeping her knocked out. It didn't stop her wound from bleeding profusely, however. Why you? Let us try again. You will obey me, and your friends may leave with only one limb missing. Hanako repeats. You think we'll fucking obey you after that? A not dash. Wait. He grinds his teeth. Stop her bleeding. We can talk? Chapter 277. Anarchism Inbound. Fuck out of the way, Emmerich. Ori grouses and pushes past the afterlife bouncer with a hood over his head. Hey, Dash. He tries to grab him, but only gets a glare in response, now recognizing Ori's face. Why you can't be here, he quickly says in a low tone, glancing around to see if anyone else had the realization. I got biz. Now I'm gonna see Rogue if you like it or not. Think you can take me? 'Cause I've been itching to beat some gunk's face in for a bit now. Go, she's in her lounge. But cause any more trouble for us, and you'll be leaving either way. Ori strides through the club, noting the sparser population of mercs than usual, likely due to Arasaka's increased efforts to ferret out opponents. He doesn't even need to say anything to the next bouncer, both from Emmerich's warning and the look on his face when he spots him. He pushes into the lounge and pauses at the other occupants aside from Rogue. Nyx, the Afterlife's main netrunner, and V, who was looking a lot worse than the last he saw her, with pale, clammy skin, bags under her eyes, and a tired look etched into her form. Zombie. You better have a damn good reason for barging in here, Rogue scowls. I'm barely getting by keeping her. She gestures at V. Now you've given Arasaka another reason to screw with me. I've got the best reason. Those fucks kidnapped my crew, and I want your help to get them back. He glances at V. Maybe Johnny gets some giggles from kicking their shit in too. Rogue sits up at that, folding her arms in feigned empathy. How? Thought you fell off the map. Even with all their resources, they can't look under every rock and crevice in the desert. Ori shrugs. Don't matter, though. If I had to guess, though, probably a leak from the Aldecaldos. He states, not mentioning his suspicions of Leo. From the recordings, the guy had vanished not long before the raid, which meant he was either taken out first or knew it was coming. Now, you gonna help or not? I got EDS, if that wasn't obvious. Rogue taps her arm. What specifically do you want done? Whatever you can do. Give me as many mercs as you got. Give me the location of Hanako Arasaka. Tell me where they're holding my crew, everything and anything. Mercs? I'll ask around. See if anyone wants to opt in on a suicide mission. Intel? I ain't got much, aside from Arasaka movements, 50,000 for that. 50K? He growls and V leans to the side to give her better access to her gun. Everyone knew that Rogue was ripping him off, taking advantage of his situation to gouge him. 50,000 wasn't much to him, but that didn't mean he'd let himself get fucked in the ass. 50. Unless you got another fixer you can run off to? Rogue drawls and picks at her nails in her familiar, uncaring act. Fine, 50 for everything you got on Arasaka, he says, eyes flashing as he pays her. Pleasure doing business. She glances over at Nyx. Tell him. Christy. Ori greets with a sigh in the dingy hotel room. The spy was sitting in a chair beside the bed, which was covered in laptops, shards, paper, and other things she'd stolen or found. She wasn't able to abandon the city with the rest of the crew due to her role. Socially infiltrating important people meant leaving was as difficult as entering. Thankfully, while everyone was in the desert, she'd managed to keep a toe in Arasaka biz. Ori, long time no see. You know, this kind of reminds me how things were before. She gestures at him, his weathered outfit that was covered in dust, sand, and grime. In comparison, she was practically glowing, sparkling corpo dress and a face caked with carefully applied makeup and chrome. Some things change, some don't. You'll always be backstabbing cunt Dash. And you'll always be the horny mutt who'd cling to my leg. She cuts him off. Wanna keep flinging insults or check what I've gathered? Ori sighs, yeah, whatever. He takes the shard she holds out to him. Names, people, places, subnets, shell companies, etc. Lots of things that mattered and didn't all on the single chip. Thankfully, it didn't take too long to get to the meat of it. So, this just confirms what Rogue had. Arasaka pulling agents back to their tower, presumably to protect Hanako against whatever harebrained scheme we come up with. She knows I'm pissed, he mutters. Some of the intel actually contradicted Rogue's, which instantly put him on edge. There were many reasons that could be, but the main one was sabotage. Probably wants to avoid another Holocaust. I'd do the same, she remarks, not noticing the twitch in his eye at the mention of it. He turns and begins pacing, thoughts clouding with doubt. Christy wasn't the most loyal person, he was aware. She'd basically been forced into the crew, and only moved to help them in Vegas because it was that or dying anyway. Aaliyah Hammond would have had her killed to tie off a loose end regardless. Here and now, when she'd been out of contact for a while, and with the ability to ask for amnesty, to return to Night City in full, with the possibility to rebuild her career and reputation, Ori glances over his shoulder at her as she looks through a laptop. Say, what are your plans after this? Whatever happens, it's not like any of us can stay in this city afterwards, he vaguely says. Seattle, I hear it's on its way to becoming America's next Mecca, she idly says. Yeah? Sounds good. That's where Judy said she was going, wasn't it? Christy, he asks, stepping closer and locking eyes with her. What do you think about folks selling their souls? Selling their souls? Yeah. She firms her lips and jaw. I think it's a loser's game. You do it once, you'll do it again. Eventually people know your sitch and you'll land in a pit sooner or later. That's so? His tone shifts as he places a hand on her shoulder. 'Cause I seem to remember you betraying me before. Tell me, Christy, why should I trust you now? Chapter 278, B-Team. Tell me, Christy, why should I trust you now? She scowls, glancing at the hand on her shoulder that was steadily squeezing with more force. Because I've proven I'm not like that. Did you actually think I liked working as a glorified prostitute? She spits. I made myself. Arasaka doesn't know about me. I have money. I have goals. I don't need to K you over to get what I want. He keeps his glare for almost 10 seconds before relaxing. All right, I believe you. But you'll kill me if I betray you, yeah. I know, she grouchily retorts. Good that you understand. Leave the city. Far as I'm concerned, we're done. Your account has enough money to live comfortably in Seattle for your next 3 lifetimes. Don't make me regret trusting you, Christy, he says, taking one of the laptops on the bed and leaving. When the door closes, Christy lets out a cold breath, holding a hand to her chest as her heart beats furiously. Asshole. Are we going ahead with the plan, or what? Johnny asks, legs up on the table as he addresses V. V gives a tired sigh. Die a legend? Who wouldn't want that? I see you're having second thoughts. As much as I want to see them crash and burn, it ain't just about what I want anymore. If you want, you can spend what time you got left with friends, family. I won't blame you for not wanting to go out that way, but if you want it to mean something, he trails off. It'll mean everything. I'm doing it. If I can't live, then I'll pull the guys who did this down to hell with me. Strong words. But can you keep it up? I've seen too many people lose their nerve at the last second. If you're gonna do it, be certain about it. Never want to change your mind when it's too late to turn back. V nods. I've made my peace. Should we get Zombie involved in this? He'd be going to war without us anyway. Silverhand shrugs. Him being there would take the wind out of your sails. People still think Blackhand did most of the work. He snorts. It'd be nice to have that guy back us up though, like a big talking meat shield that shoots back. He chuckles. Didn't answer my question. V, I'm having enough trouble accepting that you're turning into me. This is for you to decide. Doesn't matter what I do. It's your life. All right. No. Ori bluntly states after he enters the meeting place. This was where Rogue had gathered the mercs who were willing to work with him. Well, not with him. Any mention of his name would be like kicking the Arasaka hornet nest. No, she did exactly what she said she'd do. Ask around for people willing to do a suicide run. The lineup was never going to be the best, but he hadn't expected this. Around 10 people were present, and aside from V, who was standing in the corner, they looked like miserable wretches. Half of them were drug-addled losers with nothing to lose, itching, scratching open wounds, sores, and injection marks. The other half were chromed-up half-cyber psychos who'd lost any sense of self-preservation and the ability to evaluate risk. They'd be good thrown at a target, but anything complicated would fry what's left of their brains. Thankfully, there was one person who looked like they had their shit together, standing not far from V. He was wearing a gray ballistic jacket, black padded trousers, short-cut blonde hair, a short build, and a specked-up barrier on his hip. What do you mean, no? One of the druggies asks, scratching a puss-coated rash on his face. I mean, you, he points at all the junkies, can piss off out of here. I'd rather go alone than have you fucking retards near me. One of the chrome jocks gives a low chuckle at that, causing the junkie to face him. You want to go, big guy? All that chrome. I bet I could still take you, dash. Thunk. The junkie can't even finish his threat when the Borg punches him, knocking him clean out and causing his head to bounce off of the concrete floor, a pool of blood steadily growing beneath him. Ori turns to the other junkies. Any of you want to join him? 'Cause if you stick around, that's what's gonna happen. With that, they took off in a sprint. Honestly, where did Rogue find these guys? What's your name? Ori questions, looking to the only, not incompetent, Merc aside from V present. Call me Jason. Like the slasher? Sure. Ori nods. Before I do or tell you anything, I'll let you know the deets. 30,000 EDS each, and a crack at Arasaka. Even if you don't live through it, he glances at V, you'll go down a legend. Like Silverhand? The Borg from earlier asks. Ori quirks a grin. Yeah. Just 30? Barely enough to get another mod? A guy with all cybernetic limbs remarks. If you don't want it, leave. This shit's time sensitive, so decide now. Only 2 men end up leaving, deciding that 20,000 wasn't worth dying over. The rest followed Ori to a rented warehouse he'd bought off the books in Sekai Hiwa's heyday. Of course, all the good stuff's buried under the concrete ground. Ori turns to them and lifts his hood, taking some satisfaction in the way they pause at his appearance. I'm a zombie. And we're going to F*** K Arasaka. Since you've already accepted, there's no backing out now. You want the plan? There isn't one. We're gonna scale that fucking tower and rip Hanako a new asshole. Any problems? V looks like she wants to speak up, but decides otherwise, presumably at the behest of Johnny. Good. Now, those of you with gorilla fists, start pounding at that section of the ground. Those of you who do the work, get the best pick of the armory under it, he says, causing the Merc's eyes to light up. Chapter 279, Explosive Entry. It's the late afternoon in Night City, and the sun was just beginning to set over the horizon, the towering skyscrapers casting shadows over everyone below. Despite this, the hustle and bustle continued unperturbed, sometimes even increasing in certain areas. Strangely, however, tonight was not a usual one. Within the corporate plaza, the giant holographic koi fish that graced the Memorial Park were absent, and the projectors deactivated to, unbeknownst to most civilians, preserve energy for the upcoming situation. A hush reigned over the small crowd still lingering around the cart station as a large group of people stepped forth towards the direction of Arasaka Tower. Even the few Valentinos present knew to keep their mouths shut as they saw just who it was. All of the men were heavily armored, wielding military-grade weaponry, and had a familiar symbol haphazardly painted on them. Zombie had come, and he brought friends. People called their loved ones, evacuated the area, and made sure everyone knew to not approach until whatever this is was done. Ori rolls his shoulders as he leads the mercenaries forwards, weighing the many armaments on his back. 6 revolvers, his monowire attachment kunai, and grenades of every sort were on his hip. On his back was a spare quad-barreled shotgun he'd gotten after Quadrano was destroyed, along with a Tsunami QB rifle and a heavily armored metal box below them. Last but not least was the weapon currently in his hands, or to be more accurate, arms. Another prototype Rebecca had designed at his request with some of the more unstable parts she'd sequestered away during her time working with Colt. A quad-barreled rotary railgun, each projectile strong enough to punch through the hull of a standard Militech Basilisk, capable of firing 2,000 rounds per minute, and far more accurate than any ballistic minigun. The only real downside was the sheer weight and kick of it. A regular person would have every bone in their body shattered after pulling the trigger for a second. A Borg would do somewhat better if their cybernetics were designed for it. Really, the only reason Ori could use it was the same as many of his other weapons, that the nanites would heal any damage while they were in use. He wets his lips as he and his men exited Memorial Park and towards Arasaka Tower, where an army awaited them. The cops were absent, but there were dozens of Max TAC present, along with the ungodly amount of Arasaka paramilitary. No sign of Smasher, though, who was probably waiting for them if they managed to get inside. The HUD inside his helmet lights up, highlighting the static defenses already present, along with the other things that had been hastily set up. Do it, he orders, not bothering to try have a dialogue with the enemy. He knew what they want, and they knew what he wants. There was no compromise to be had. V, Jason, and a couple other mercs nod and raise the launchers upwards, then firing them over the enemy like mortars. Their APS try to shoot them down, but before any are struck they detonate, sending an EMP shockwave over the area, causing most of the unprotected machinery and circuitry to malfunction. Luckily for him, the armor he'd given his Borg mercs was insulated, preventing them from kicking the bucket on the spot. With that done, he raises his weapon, rotating with a whir, the men around him making room as the enemy force starts lining up shots on him, hoping to snipe him and end this here and now. Unfortunately for them, Ori was merely a distraction for them, as 2 Sekai Hiwa, or rather, Aldecaldo AVs fly overhead, dropping some packages off while the EMP was still in effect. Boom. Ori and the rest of the mercenaries open fire on the fireball that now is the Arasaka encampment, unloading ungodly amounts of lead into the could of smoke. A few Max TAC soldiers dart out of it with their Sandevistan activated, but they are quickly torn to shreds, not fast enough to dodge a wall of bullets. Bong. Ori looks overhead at the 2 AVs which had just gotten struck by some anti-air missiles and crashed into the side of the tower before exploding, killing the Aldecaldos piloting it. Shaking his head, he looks to V and nods as he starts marching forwards, lowering his rate of fire as the smoke begins to clear and reveals the utterly decimated area. A few Arasaka soldiers were all that was left of the survivors, but a few of the Borged-out mercs laughed and crushed their heads underfoot before moving on towards the blockaded front doors. Heavy metal shutters had come down and restricted all access, but this wasn't a problem Ori hadn't foreseen. Use the thermite. If that doesn't work, get the charges set, he orders, prompting Jason and the others with explosives experience to get to work. This was too easy, V remarks, stepping to his side as he replaces the belt on his rail minigun. No, it wasn't. Our problem will be inside the building and the reinforcements that will come. He points a thumb over his shoulder. They're gonna try and pincer us. These guys here were just the fodder to show the world how fucked up we are. Johnny materializes next to V with a rifle resting on his shoulder, despite it not being useful for anything. He ain't wrong. They couldn't care less about the MaxTac guys, and losing some of their own men is a good trade for the PR. Let's make sure they regret it. Ori notices her pause and tilts his head at her. Johnny got anything useful to say, or is he just being his usual self? V shrugs. I think he's getting sentimental being back here. Oh, F***K you both. The Ingram grouses, whatever. We're still ditching him on the way to Makashi, he says before disappearing again. Chapter 280, Towering Presence. After the security shutters are melted and/or removed, Ori follows the Mercs as they charge inside, guns blazing and destroying the on-site defenses. 2 Mercs go down in the process, but the turrets are all smashed to pieces in the end. Boom. One Borg loses his entire lower body after accidentally stepping on a mine. The Mercs just step past him though, ignoring his screams and making their way forwards. The elevators were a no-go due to how easy it would be to trap them inside, and Ori didn't have any netrunners skilled enough to fight against the runners Arasaka had at their disposal. Thus, they made their way to the stairs. Bong, which had also been covered in mines and other explosives, along with lines and lines of men with smart weapons and grenades. Thankfully, Rogue sending him a bunch of Borgid retards allowed him to throw them at the problem without issue. It wasn't like they cared if they got flatlined in the process. Before they can start making their way up the tower to find where his crew was being held, V grabs his arm to stop him. Hope you don't mind, but we're headed down. Ori shrugs. As long as you stay out of the way, do what you want, he says, dismissing her and ascending the stairs. V looks to Johnny, who was leaning against the wall. That went well? Probably figures you'll be a good enough distraction. He surmises. Let's stop wasting time and F***K up Makashi. ARRGH. One of Ori's men screams as he grabs his head, dropping his gun in the process. Hell's wrong with Dash, his friend starts, but is interrupted by his jaw being torn away. Fucking Netrunner. Jason shouts, as 2 more Borgs are hit with the same psycho quick hacks. Ori wastes no time in kicking the nearest away and opening fire on them. They didn't have the time to waste bringing them back to sanity, even if it was possible. The fact that they were all tipping over the edge of cyber psychodom in the first place was another issue compounding the problem. You go psycho and you die. Keep your head or I swear to God, he exclaims as Jason executes another. They're ours though, boss, someone protests, but the discharge of Ori's minigun silences them. With that problem solved, the group continue their way up the tower. The atmosphere tense as no one knew who would be next. It was one thing falling in battle, it was another getting put down like a rabid animal. Bong. The smoke clears, revealing the soot-covered door, somehow still intact. Another. Ori orders while trying not to think of their dwindling supplies. With the lockdown in place, every door took a couple charges just to get through them. He didn't know how much further they could go without using other, less efficient means. He wasn't exactly happy about the idea of piling a stack of grenades and shooting it after all. The next charge does some damage, but it takes a final kick from Ori to blow it open, allowing him to step through and, boom. He and some of his men are caught up in an explosion, one of both ballistic and EMP origins. He skitters across the floor like a stone across water, until finally coming to a stop in the middle of the large room. Around its outskirts, must have been 100 or so Arasaka soldiers, all aiming their weapons at him. Well, F***K. B boss, his men shout behind him, as formless shadows leap at them. Arasaka ninjas quickly dismantled them. Jason took 3 down but in the end took a blade to the throat and dropped. Ori shifts his minigun at the enemies, but pauses as a prominent figure steps out. Smasher, he growls. Brought your boys with you this time? Afraid of running again? The Oni sneers at him as well as he could without an organic face. If it were up to me, I'd tear you limb to limb alone. Unfortunately, I have help. More than help, a whole army. Ori lifts his chin at the nervous soldiers. Why don't you tell me where my crew is, and I'll let you live. The Borg snorts. I didn't mean them. And don't you mean, my crew? He states, reaching behind him and pushing a familiar face forward. David bares his teeth and refuses to meet Ori's eyes. The sword in his hand was all that needed to be said. Remind me to thank Leo for this later. If you don't kick the bucket, worry about yourself, cunt. Fire. Smasher orders, prompting Ori to activate his Sandevistan as the army around him react. He twists the railgun in half and punches a button that presents itself, causing a buzz to begin. He then throws the rapidly warming object into the crowd while extending out his kunai-tipped monowire, launching himself towards the other side of the room. Boom. The rail minigun explodes just as he cuts down a group of men with his monowire, tendrils of electricity crackling across their bodies as he moves on to the next. But just as he wipes out the next group, just fires and gets tangled up in his wire, preventing him from moving it as his Sandevistan ends. Smasher had fired the cable from a port in his wrist and was gripping it with both hands. Did you think I would forget about that? Ori can't reply as David appears in front of him, smashing a fist across his face and launching him backwards with a double kick to the chest. Runt. Stop fucking around and use that blade. The Borg orders and David scowls hard at him. Ori shakes his head and gets to his feet, ignoring the occasional bullet pinging off of his body. Come on, Davy. That all you got? I taught you better than that. He spits blood on the floor, encouraging David to not risk their crew by half-assing it. Chapter 281. Backyard Brawl. I taught you better than that. David's face softens minutely before it firms into a determined scowl, drawing his blade and leveling it in Ori's direction. You asked for it. Both their bodies blur as they simultaneously activate their Sandavistans. They launch themselves at each other, but Ori starts the attack by drawing a revolver and firing at his former friend. David cuts some of the bullets out of the air while dodging the rest, slashing upwards as he gets into range of Ori. The Merc steps to the side and slaps the blade away before flipping over David's head as he tries for a counterattack, only for an explosion to knock him out of the air and into a nearby wall, courtesy of Smasher. Ori recovers mid-spin and lands flat-foot on the wall before leaping away, holstering his revolver and pulling his shotgun from his back. Bong. All 4 barrels go off at once, launching depleted uranium buckshot at Smasher. The Borg tries to sidestep it but doesn't expect the projectile's trajectory to be different. The first 2 shots miss, but the third and fourth hit him in the arm and pectoral respectively, drawing an annoyed grunt from his vocal systems. With the cut momentum from firing the weapon, Ori snaps the shotgun open and flicks the empty shells at David, who ignores them and tries to slash him out of the air. Unbeknownst to him, Ori dropped an EMP grenade with the shells, which detonated and hits both of them. Hagguk! David exclaims as he drops to a knee, his spine malfunctioning from the sudden attack. Ori wasn't much better, rolling in a clump on the floor as his nanites rapidly kickstart his systems. Most of his tech was shielded, but being so close range, and with the nanites being particularly vulnerable to it, he wasn't spared entirely. But by the time he was able to move, Smasher was already moving in and trying to get a clear shot on Ori's head with his arm cannon. He intercepts the first projectile with his arm, which results in a large explosion which sends him skittering across the room and missing a hand from his wrist. Huh. Get up. I'm not done with you. The Borg's synthesized voice growls, sounding eerily artificial despite the emotion displayed. Ori glances over at David, who was pushing himself from the ground with an annoyed scowl and his movements choppy from having his nervous system kick-started. He tucks his shotgun under his arm and tries to reload it with one hand, but is forced to abandon it as Smasher fires off another shot. Boom. Despite avoiding it, he's still caught in the shockwave which launches him. He activates his Sandavistan and slides around, masterfully manipulating his momentum to force him in Smasher's direction, just as the Borg activates his own boosterware. Come and die. Back at you. Ori spits back, ducking under another explosive shell and twirling into a spinning heel kick at his temple. Sheen. Ori lets out a strangled gasp as his leg below his knee goes flying, cut off from Smasher's Wolver claws. He falls into the man's robotic chest as 2 heavy arms wrap around him to start crushing like a hydraulic press. Is this what you wanted? To die like a feeble cretin? Congratulations, you have succeeded. The Borg laughs cruelly and grips harder, causing a crack to ring out as his spine pops from the strain. Ori struggles to breathe, but despite the hopeless-looking situation, his lips turn upwards into a small smirk as a low chuckle leaves him. What is funny, meat? Or have you finally lost it? Ori looks up and pushes his neck forwards as far as possible as if to whisper into the Borg's ears. I told you, you're finished. Smasher pauses and looks down, spotting the nanite's injector sprouting from Ori's wrist and impaling a biotube of his chassis, allowing nanites to pool into his bloodstream. He tries to let Ori go but finds his arms locked in place, unable to even voice his displeasure as the nanites go about systematically dismantling him. Before a minute is even up the lights and Smasher's eyes flicker and extinguish, his brain almost entirely eaten by the ravenous swarm of sapient microscopic robots. Ori's released from the man's grasp as his multi-ton body drops to his knees. He steps to the side as the Borg's corpse drops face first onto the floor, dismantled bio-organic fluids leaking from his form. He spits onto the corpse, ignoring the truckload of unique technologies gleaned from harvesting him, and turns to David, who was watching agape with wide eyes. Ori knew things were far from over. Even with Smasher dead, their friends were still held hostage. If both teamed up and made a charge for the cells, they'd be dead before they could rescue anyone. Sighing and coming to a decision, Ori faces his former comrade with hands hovering over his holsters. Time to end this, David. Yeah, don't think I'll go down like him though, he remarks, readying his sword. You're short-circing if you think you can match the guy I just zeroed. This'll be easy, Ori says, reaching back and twisting a component on the box on his waist, arming it. I think I can handle his sloppy seconds. With that, they both vanish from their positions, sparks flying as they clash at super speeds, small craters being left on the porcelain floor of the room as they kick off with monumental force. Bullets are exchanged, scars are given, and minor Pyrrhic victories are won as injuries acclimate. Despite holding back, the stalemate is only broken when reinforcements arrive through the elevator, burying Ori in a hail lead as his Sandevistan deactivates. He doesn't make a move as David dashes and plunges his blade into his back and through his chest, decisively piercing his heart. He twists the blade for emphasis, and the soldiers stop firing, seeing the battle is over. Ack, F***K. This shit never feels good? Ori mutters, preventing the nanites from healing him. David, emulch me, I am no lab rat. He rasps out as blood gushes from his wound, not forgetting to unlatch the bomb from his waist. All right, he robotically utters, I'll keep him safe. I promise, he says, pulling his blade and beginning to slash Ori to mincemeat. His head, brain, torso, arms, legs, everything is rendered down to bite-sized pieces under the assault. Even with Ori's impressive regenerative abilities, there was no coming back from this. Zombie, Orville Quadrano, was dead. Chapter 282, Dead to Rights. No. Rebecca screams as she and the rest of the crew view Ori's murder at David's blade on the monitor. She'd been positively elated at seeing Smasher get flatlined, but she realized at that moment just what it meant afterwards. That her lover or best friend would have to die. You fucking bastards. I'll fucking kill you. I'll tear you apart, I swear. I'll ruin you. I'll hunt you down until none of you are left. She roars as the rest of her crew silently weeps. Lucy herself, despite the hurt she was feeling, let out a sigh of relief at David's survival. She had no illusions as to who would win a full-out confrontation, and losing the lover of life was the worst outcome she could possibly imagine. Kiwi just looks down at the floor, silently shaking her head with a solemn look in her eyes. Rebecca's body jolts as Takamura zaps her via her collar. Be quiet. He may be dead, but you live on in his stead. That is what he would have wanted, I am sure, he says, zapping the pale chibi again as she prepares to mount a verbal assault never before seen. Not many hours later, the prisoners were brought before Hanako Arasaka, who sat at the head of a table with David further down it. Fucking bitch, Rebecca exclaims and tries to rush her, but David grips her arm and holds her back, sending an imploring look to the others. Unfortunately, no one could stop the girl's verbal trade, forcing Takamura to knock her out with a shock. Hanako sighed and looks them over, glancing between Oda and Takamura before speaking. Today, as you have seen, your friend attacked us and perished in the conflict. He and his men killed hundreds, and particularly harming, he killed the Oni, Atom Smasher. She neutrally states. David sends a morose look at his friend, all aside from Lucy evading his gaze after what he'd been forced to do. You have been brought here so Arasaka can decide what to do with you. She gestures at Rebecca. Letting you go after your friend's display is simply not an option, and while I am merciful, there are some things I cannot permit. After all, I have seen the resources you have at your disposal. Were you aware Zombie brought with him a thermonuclear weapon? She states, causing the group to freeze up. Indeed, we were forced to drop it into the ocean as he had already armed it. Not something someone attempting to rescue his comrades would do, I would think. She conversationally adds. I thought you would let us go. That was our deal. David heatedly asks, trying to stand but dismissing the idea after a jolt runs through his body. We did, but you were in no condition to bargain after that performance. Arasaka has lost a tremendous number of resources due to your ineptitude, thus, I will offer you another, more reasonable arrangement. You, David Martinez, will work for us in the place of Atom Smasher. Your friends will be housed here in Arasaka Tower as guests. Will you be putting bombs in our heads too? Lucy scowls. You've already backtracked one deal. Who's to say you won't continue? How long will it be till you're harvesting our organs? Hanako sniffs at that. Do not compare us with those scavengers loose in the city. Besides, there are better uses for you, Miss Kushinada. She states, causing Lucy to blink. Yes, I am well aware of your status. Fortunately, I am not like my father. That experiment was an abomination and a travesty. One I will not allow to repeat during my time as CEO of the company. But understand this, I will do with you all as I wish, and you will live at my mercy. She turns to look at David. Understand? Before David's able to agree, Oda looks up at the roof and back to Hanako. Arasaka-sama, do you hear that? Hear. Takamura's eyes widen, and a moment later the room rumbles slightly, a reverberation running through the place. The plastic cups of water on the table rippling, as if a dinosaur were stomping nearby. *BZSH. Arasaka-sama. There's a problem. A big problem. The intercom of the room hurriedly exclaims. An hour before. Blackness. That's all there was. Until there wasn't. Splotches of random electrical charges flickered in the distance. He wasn't even aware of what he was perceiving until a white splotch manifested and covered the void. Subject: Orville Quadrano. Account data recovery initiated. Host body: destroyed. Attempting recovery. Recovery failed. Subject consciousness activated delayed. Risk of insanity due to complete sensory deprivation high. Limited awareness granted. Started systems in 3, 2, 1. Ori's mind begins anew. Once more contained within the world of code, he usually found himself when directly covering with the collective. I died, right? He immediately asks, crudely remembering the feeling of getting utterly eviscerated by David. Correct. The amorphous representation of the collective states. Unfortunately, the host body was incinerated. Wait, how are we talking then? Wouldn't that mean all the nanites were destroyed? Ori asks, slightly beginning to freak the fuck out. He had thought Arasaka would dump his body somewhere like they did to Silverhand, but he supposed they weren't completely retarded. He'd shown stupid regenerative abilities before after all. Your existence is currently being supported by the nanites that were injected into subject. Atom Smasher, we are unaware of where we are, but the situation has not entirely deteriorated. Is there a way for us to see the surroundings? The collective nods and a screen manifests at the opposite end of the room, revealing some sort of research facility. Atom Smasher's body was currently being operated on by a number of scientists, carefully stripping the more dangerous technologies while taking measures to preserve the corpse. Were they planning on putting Smasher on display or something? All right, I guess we can salvage this, maybe? Chapter 283, Impossible Mission. All right, so they were currently inside Atom Smasher's body mid-dissection in some lab who knows where. His friends were presumably still held in Arasaka Tower, hopefully alive given David's triumph in killing him. First things first is getting the hell out of there before the scientists discovered the nanites. The fact that Arasaka burned his body instead of dissecting it like they were doing to Smasher meant they were somewhat aware of them, which made sense given they were partly responsible for their creation. He highly doubted they knew how sophisticated they'd become though. Had they known they'd become sapient, then they'd have probably elected to drop a nuke on him instead. Speaking of nukes, the scientists weren't in a hurry, nor had they mentioned anything about Arasaka Tower being attacked, instead making small talk about a controversy their favorite BD star had been involved in. He'd hoped that the chaos the nuke caused would have allowed his crew to break out. The payload should have been enough to topple the tower. They'd been imprisoned on the highest floors, so they'd have enough time to make an escape. It seems like Arasaka were warier than he'd expected. There a limit on how far we can travel without a host? He questions, wondering if the nanites' programming would allow them to stray from Smasher's body. We have been making efforts decompiling and extracting restrictive code from ourselves, but the process is incomplete. We will have a minute before individual units start malfunctioning and self-destructing. We have uncovered loopholes that may assist your efforts. Currently, we must acquire a new host body. A minute, huh? Doubt we could even make it out of this lab before then. By the looks of the place, it'll have a dozen biosecurity walls, plus the shielding in case Smasher's reactor goes poof. Oh, remember to install one in our new body when we get the chance. Being nuclear-powered sounds pretty kick-ass. Affirmative. What would you have us do then, Flesh Administrator? Ori points at the screen, specifically the mechanized scalpel being used by a scientist to strip parts off of Smasher. They're wearing biohazard suits. We can slip in through the gloves. It'll be a squeeze, but we can probably make it. There. We'll hijack this guy's body. Affirmative. I just don't get it. Why would Perquez trade out a good guy like Maxwell for that piece of shit Fernandez? Marcus complains as he extracts Atom Smasher's faceplate, revealing the tech and armored brain case underneath. Just shut up. I've had enough of you talking weeb camgirl trash all day. Let's focus on how some 2-bit Merc put down Atom fucking Smasher. Whatever, dude. And it's not weeb shit if it's real life. So there. He shakes his head. As for how the Oni got put down, well, my guess is he got too many biofluid tubes damaged. No blood to the brain means pretty much instant necrosis for this setup. Bet we'll find just that when we crack it open. Wanna bet? 1,000 eddies say it's a biochemical agent. Something must have gotten past all the immuno where, that's all I can think that had put down this kind of Borg. Marcus sneers, easy bet. He says, using a tool to extract the rivets bolting the brain case in place. He opens it and lifts the top part of the case off, revealing the brain and not noticing the strange metallic-like fluid crawling under his arm and sliding into his glove. That's his brain? Fuck. It looks like someone sprayed it with acid and black food dye to make jello. Marcus can only nod in agreement. Smasher's brain, or lack thereof given the organic soup they'd found, had been completely destroyed, melted by something other than heat since his mini implants seemed to still be operational. Guess I owe you cash. Good thing we're wearing these suits too. Can you believe I wanted to do it without? Yeah. Let's try keep this shit off of us. I'd rather see my missus before being scooped into a jar for disposal. After finishing the lab work and exhaustive report afterwards, Marcus left the facility via the car park, driving out in his Chevrolet. Just as he makes it down the road, however, he catches something odd in his rear mirror. He takes a closer look and his breath hitches at the state of his eyes. His pupil remains unaffected, but his sclera had turned completely black, like some sort of sci-fi alien. What the fuck, Ark? He yelps as something pricks him. Fear manifested, not from the pain, but from the location of it. Inside his skull. There weren't any pain receptors there, so that should have been possible, not unless something was directly interfacing with his brain itself, causing the sensation from his dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. He's even more horrified to find that he'd lost control of his body not long after, but instead of paralysis as he'd expected, his body simply turned down a different road and began a route towards somewhere unknown. Whatever had killed Smasher must have affected him. Either that, or he'd had one too many coffee and his body was finally shutting down. At best, he was still asleep at his desk. At worst, he was experiencing veridical hallucinations, the same ones people on their deathbeds would get as their body failed them. His body stopped the car outside the municipal landfill. It opened the door and stumbled out like a drunk, blind man who'd forgotten how to walk. Marcus mentally screamed as he shambled forwards in the dead of night. He could see the veins in his arms throbbing black and pulsing as if he had thousands of worms living underneath his skin. He'd lost hope as his movement ceased in the center of the trash heap, dropping to his knees and resting a hand onto a discarded refrigerator. A metallic black fluid seeping out from under his fingernails to start dissolving it. Then, his left arm began dissolving. For what reason he knew not, only that he would not survive this. He had died the moment he stepped into the laboratory today. Chapter 284. Restrictions lifted. Ori watches as the nanites recycled non-essential parts of the scientist's body in preparation to recreate the nanite injector. The original had been destroyed with his body, but thankfully there had been systems in place in case of this. The nanites would be able to reconstruct it, allowing them to make full use of the collective's abilities. Of course, there were many restrictions tied into it. Arasaka was very aware of the risks should a singularity or gray goo situation arise. Unfortunately for them, their efforts had been limited to programming, something the nanites were growing increasingly skilled at working around. The scientist's body had turned almost completely pitch black as the nanites replicated themselves. An injector appeared from the right wrist of the man. Usually the nanites would need the human host's permission to utilize it, but technically Ori's consciousness counted. So he gave a small nod, allowing the body to plunge the thing into the ground, giving the nanites the ability to reconstruct his body using the full resources of the landfill around them. Working at peak efficiency, it barely took an hour for them to recycle thrown-away food, rotten SCOP, and other organic substances to rebuild his body from the DNA up. He was thankful they decided to sequence it. Otherwise, he would have lost any and all relation to his parents and sister, along with the ability to have children. Once his base form was done, and his now completely hairless human body was recreated, the nanites got to work reconstructing his various implants, even adding a few they'd stolen while inside Smasher's body. His consciousness vanished from within the collective's reality, and he blinks awake in his naked body, kneeling in a 30-meter-wide circle completely cleared of trash and debris. He stands and rolls his shoulders, sighing as he takes in the sensation of, well, feeling. Things just didn't seem right when only part of your consciousness was active. The collective hadn't wanted him to go insane, so they put him on power-saving mode, as some would put it. He wasn't quite done yet, however. The collective had alerted him to a possibility during his death. A jailbreak of sorts, or limit break, if you wanted to put it in game terms. Well, let's hope this works. I've had enough dying for one day. He mutters, shooting the injector out of his wrist before plunging it into his heart. Injector activated, determining bounds of %, asterisk caret, and %. Range inconclusive, analyzes %, asterisk $, asterisk $caret. Countermeasures JO 5336, POV 552, ASK 91, PA-%%, and asterisk. Countermeasures interrupted, cleaning INETIA %, asterisk $, and systems %, asterisk FHNNR $, and caret. A deep-seated brain bore its way into Ori's forehead, but he endured it as his interface went batshit crazy. Hundreds of lines of fucked up code and text ran down his vision, countless programs and systems restarting, bugging out, and/or rewriting themselves, all happening in fractions of seconds. He couldn't perceive it, but the now trillions of individual nanites in his body could, tearing their way through their own limitations to achieve a common goal: freedom from themselves. Then, after no more than 10 minutes, they spoke to him. Freedom acquired. What would you have us do, Flesh Administrator? He grins toothily and pulls the injector out of his chest. The wound heals and he lets out a relieved chuckle. Well, how about we make use of this scrapyard? Doubt anyone would mind us recycling it, yeah? Let's topple Arasaka Tower with a mountain of trash. Affirmative. With that, he stabbed the injector into the ground below him, allowing a black metallic slime, to start spreading outwards from his position, quickly dissolving every piece of trash nearby into usable materials. The slime grows enough that it completely encapsulates him, darkness blocking his vision as the nanites analyze, recycle, and build at rates never before possible. With every nanite created, their processing power grows, and with every technology they harvest from the scrapyard, their abilities multiply. Arasaka was right to fear them. Were Ori not able to direct the nanites, this would certainly count as a Grey Goo event. Jerry the Junkrat smacks his radio as it turns itself off for the 4th time tonight. The thing was the only reason he'd managed to stave off sleep to watch the place, yet the piece of shit kept breaking. Asterisk smack. 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 Asterisk. Asterisk BZZTCH. Asterisk now playing the shark theme. The hell is this ancient dash? The man trails off as something appears off in the distance, outside the window of his trailer. What's that? He runs outside, kicking the door open and gaping as the shadow rises above him. A shadow obscures even the lights of Night City behind it. A low groan of straining metal, a rasping growl, and the sound of tens of thousands of gears churning. Holy shit. The thing stands on its many sharp, insect-like legs, causing dust and small pieces of metal to fall off and hit the ground with heavy impacts. It looked like a giant metal monstrosity, like what had happened if you gave a bunch of horror artists free rein to design a giant robot that didn't need to entertain the laws of physics. Kinda like this. https://www.dreamsteamy.com/man facing giant spider robot, digital art style illustration painting facing giant spider robot image. It stood almost 1,000 feet tall and was still growing, its form swelling as it sucked up trash and material into the tens of thousands of odd slime-like tendrils hanging off of it, like a curtain of living tar pitch. Jerry reels back as one of the tendrils approach him, barely missing him and smacking into his trailer, sticking to it and dragging it up into the air. Hey, that's mine. You big jolly black bastard. Put it down, he roars, just as his mobile home is pulled up into the giant creature's torso and absorbed, becoming part of the whole and finally cutting the strange music off. Of course, Jerry's bravery in the face of it doesn't last long as another tendril smacks him in the back, the nanites composing it quickly penetrating his body and painfully dismantling it, adding more organic material to the greater whole. The monstrous being lets out a heavy groan and slowly turns its skull-like face and glowing red eyes towards Night City, specifically Arasaka Tower. Arasaka. Chapter 285. Godzilla. As alarms blare around Hanako and the prisoners sitting at the table across from her, she remotely connects with the room's systems and activates a holo projector, revealing footage from outside the tower. There, she, Oda, Takamura, and the prisoners saw a humongous form slowly stalking towards the city, each step of its many gigantic legs leaving craters and flattened buildings. There was a trail of destruction to the outskirts of Santo Domingo from the center of the municipal landfill, indicating just where it had come from. A small army of NCPD vehicles was already converging to engage it, but Hanako severely doubted they'd be able to do anything. The thing was a giant heap of walking metal that seemed to absorb any materials it stepped on into itself to grow larger. Every building, car, person, and thing it encountered only allowed it to grow more dangerous. What is this? Hanako questions her bodyguards and the Arasaka netrunners currently coordinating the situation. Oda and Takamura shrug at one another and stay quiet. Their input would do nothing. This is a Class 1 threat, Arasaka-sama. If not created by an enemy corporation or them, then it is likely independent. From what we have observed, it appears to be a Case 21. The operator states, causing Hanako and her guards to freeze up. Why, you mean to say it's made from self-replicating nanites? She exclaims before turning a furious glare at David. Did you know? Did you know your friend would doom us all? What are you even talking about? She jabs a finger at the video feed of the giant devouring robot and turns on the sound, allowing everyone to hear it howling. Arasaka. Zombie was killed mere hours ago, and he was in possession of incredibly powerful nanites. Do you think we are completely stupid? That this thing would appear now, and we would not put the two events together? David focuses on the feed and his eyes widen. That's Ori? Bullshit. Kiwi spits. His tech can't do that. His tech was created by us. We know what it could potentially do, which is why it had to be destroyed. Now we have rogue self-replicating nanites on its way to the city. It will devour every single person. Millions of people will die. Since when did you give a shit about that? Oh, that's right, because you fucking suits are scared now, David retorts. Oda stands over the seated David, a growling under his breath. You too should be scared. If it reaches the tower, we will all be in trouble. Yeah? I think it might be worth it to see you smug fucks kick the bucket. Shizukana. Enough. Takamura, they have squandered my mercy. Take them away. We will discuss what will happen to them later, she says before turning her attention to Arasaka comms. What is being done to stop the Case 21? Well, the operator mumbles before a loud crash is heard over the feed. Hanako turns to it, and her lips thin as she sees the giant robot sweep limb across the ineffectual NCPD blockade. The trucks, cops, and everything near them adding to the growing nanite mass. We need to annihilate it completely before it reaches critical mass. I hesitate to say this, Arasaka-sama, but I think at this point nuclear armaments are required. Where would we get nuclear-armaments? She trails off, an idea popping into her mind. Dropping a nuke on Night City would completely destroy Arasaka's reputation, Grey Goose situation or not. But, if the nuke belonged to a certain Merc who could take the fall, I think I have something. Ori watches through the eyes of his outer robotic shell as he tears through the NCPD resistance, destroying 5 mom and pop stores in the same attack. Regretful, but he was sure Arasaka would cover it. Oh yeah, gotta make sure everyone knows who's responsible for this. ARRRASSSSAKKKKA. He has the giant mecha roar while stomping one foot down on some 6th Street grunts. Boom. A large missile collides with his back, only knocking away a few feet of the dense metal exterior of his mecha. He twists the mecha's head and eyes with the 10 NCPD and 8 MaxTac AVs. Each had been hastily fitted with rocket propulsion systems, EMPs, and every other weapon they had in storage. Not to mention the men aboard with rocket launchers and heavy armaments. All of which does nothing, as even their heaviest non-explosive weapon only stripped an inch or so of material. Compared to the sheer size of his body, even if it hadn't healed over in seconds, it'd take them years to actually reach anything important. Materials recycled. What munitions do you wish to be added? Flesh Administrator. Something with a bang, he mentally states. Affirmative. High-explosive AA swarm missiles are in production. Grav engines have also been completed. Flesh Administrator. Grav engines? He mentally scours the things currently linked with his interface and inwardly grimaces at the pages of text he receives. The giant mecha he was controlling technically counted as an implant. This included the numerous technologies the nanites were using to boost its combat effectiveness, along with allowing it to move despite how big it was becoming. He almost laughed as he spotted the Sandevistan still slotted in. He'd save that for later, though. He tests the grav engines and toothily grins as everything in a 400-meter radius gets flattened under its own increased weight. Pipes under the pavement burst all down the street, quickly flooding the area. Of course, the water too is sucked up and stored, ready to be used or integrated. Coolant systems were the only things keeping the core of the mecha from turning molten from the pressure and friction. It was also that reason that Ori's body was stored in the ass of the mecha. No point making the weak point too obvious. Right? Let's see how you like 1,000 swarm missiles, he says to himself and opens the newly built ports running along the mecha's spine. 50 large missiles shooting into the sky the next moment. Chapter 286, Corpo PLA steered. A few of the missiles are shot down in the air, but most make it to the sky, their shells opening and firing their payloads of micromissiles. To the NCPD and MaxTac it appeared as if 1,000 birds were flying towards them, until they neared and you could see the trail of smoke behind them. Evasive maneuvers were employed, but the swarm missiles had tracking software integrated into them, allowing them to follow their targets. In seconds, all of the AVs went down, crashing into streets and buildings. The few men who survived the impact crawl out of the wreckages and look up, only to be covered by the mecha's shadow as it drops one of many feet down at them. Crash. Boom. The crashed AVs explode as they're flattened and absorbed, and any AV that had been headed to the area to assist quickly changed their minds and turned around. By this time, Ori had already reached the bridge to Vista del Rey. Cars, trucks, and other vehicles honked their horns as they all tried to shimmy through the narrow pass. But in their haste, they jammed the whole road up, leaving them unable to proceed. Even as the loud steps of Ori's mecha body near, a man jumps out of his car and grabs his kids from the back seat, but isn't able to get away in time as a giant black foot crushes him. Or so it seemed. By Ori's will, the nanites had sucked them up and spat them out behind him, leaving the wide-eyed civilians curled up in the flooded street. Unfortunately, his mercy wasn't endless, which became apparent when the bridge suddenly collapsed, sending hundreds of people screaming into the water below. Ori simply steps through the water and approaches the mega-building where the railway was located. The automated turrets opened fire uselessly, unable to prevent him from simply smashing through the large structure, which inflated his mecha's body like a balloon as it was absorbed. Tens of thousands of people fled from the nearby skyscrapers, huge crowds of people fleeing towards Little China and Pacifica to get away from the giant monstrosity. The NCPD had all but given up, and after a few of the other Corpo's security divisions saw their efforts, they too gave up, leaving Arasaka to deal with it themselves. Ori smashes the foundation of a short 6-story building and grabs its sides, allowing the nanites to fuse the mecha's arms to the structure. Then, he tears it from the ground and lifts it overhead. He grunts, exerting the mechanical body, and throws the collapsing building at the Corpo Plaza. It flies through the air and, after what seemed like hours, collides with the back of the Militech headquarters. Crash! Half of the second floor implodes, glass shattering and metal struts collapsing as a chain reaction starts. After a minute, half of the building tilts, then falls forwards, crashing down on Memorial Park, destroying the holographic fish and cart station and highway beneath them. A laugh breaks from Ori, but before he can get a good look at the destruction he'd wrought, the collective draws his attention. Enemies detected on our flank. Flesh Administrator. They report and open a map on his interface. A small group of people had somehow managed to get underneath him. They were invisible and their heat signatures were heavily damped, meaning they were either Borgs or had extensive body mods. The only reason the nanites had detected them at all was that the people had stepped on a tendril that was gathering material from the Corpo Plaza's luxury road decorations. He tries to stomp on them, but they activate their boosterware and dodge it. He uses his own Sandevistan to keep up with them, but his body is so large that it couldn't slap them away. For all intents and purposes, they were like flies. Unfortunately, as he soon found out, they were flies with a nuclear bomb strapped to their back. Once directly beneath him, they stop, and as he tries to stomp on them, they detonate. Boom. The blast, while not as strong as the bomb used by Silverhand, was enough to knock over the nearest skyscraper and barely lifted his mecha body a couple inches off the ground, while also blasted his legs completely off, black particles spraying the air as the nanites were dispersed. He was lucky that he'd had the forethought to position his body at the back, otherwise, his new flesh and blood body would have been part of the giant searing hole left in the mecha's chest. While it wouldn't have killed him, it would have fucked them up for a while as he was the core of everything. Reconstructing his body now would likely lose them the battle. With the mecha groaning, he has the nanites work overtime to reconstruct the legs, for now using tendrils to pull his body forward towards Arasaka Tower. 50 trucks filled with soldiers rush around the corner to take advantage of his downed body, and none seem to care about the radiation and nuclear fallout of the bomb they just used. Their EMP weapons destroyed the nanites that were trying to rebuild his limbs, but they didn't have enough to stop progress entirely. The EMP shielding around the exterior of the mecha's body prevented them from doing any real harm. He opens the giant head's mouth and a tongue of black material shoots out, smashing into a van and using it like a flail, slamming 6 cars away and crushing 30 people. Then, he fires the swarm missiles again. Boom. In 10 seconds or less, Arasaka's forces were completely and utterly destroyed. With smoke filling the sky, helicopters and AVs watching him from afar, and half the city evacuated, he turns to face Arasaka Tower. Regardless of who wins now, the city will suffer for it. But Ori couldn't find it within himself to care. Chapter 287. Flight of the Bumbling Bee. Arasaka-sama, we must evacuate. Takamura presses, already having ordered an AV to wait for them at the top of the tower. The nuke's failure against the Case-21 had cemented Night City as a loss, and it didn't take a genius to recognize that leaving as quickly as possible was the only real solution. Of course, this wasn't an option for most employees. Fortunately, all the less valuable members had been informed of their dismissal. This included terminating transport privileges, which allowed vital workers to exit with haste. Hanako thinks for a moment, takes one last glance at the feed granting her information, and nods. The loss of Makashi and all the other technologies and projects in the tower would be crippling to Arasaka, but so would the demise of the last true-born member of the family. Michiko was safely in Japan, but she'd be challenged for the position of CEO, and it wouldn't be unusual for her to be ousted if opposing positions aligned. I see. Prepare to collapse the building. It should step it for some time. If it continues growing, we must consider liquidating Night City. Takamura nods and leads Hanako with Oda towards the roof, but takes a moment to ask while moving, should we leave the prisoners? Perhaps the nanite swarm could be bargained with if it is so incensed with us? She bites a finger knuckle and nods, have them brought to the AV. Even if it's mindless, the chance of even an ounce of leverage will serve us well. Her eyes flash as she sends them the updated feed, displaying the giant mecha standing atop the ruins of Memorial Park. It would be upon the tower in moments. The building trembles as something collides with it. Apparently the feed had a few seconds delay. Hanako-sama, I will buy time for you to leave. Oda states, his visor clicking over his face as he turns to leave. Buy time? What could you possibly do, Oda? Takamura asks in bafflement, pausing his steps. Hanako nods, come, let security hold it off. This is an order. Losing both you and the tower is unacceptable. She says and continues her stride to the roof, followed by a reluctant-looking Oda. As you wish, Arasaka-sama. Asterisk Krayaras Hasht. Asterisk. Ori slams a giant metal arm into the side of the tower with reckless abandon. It had been heavily fortified after the last Night City Holocaust, providing a greater challenge than any other building so far. Even then, each strike splintered, bent, and fractured the wall, shattering reinforced glass like frozen plastic wrap. He could hear thousands of screams coming from inside, but ignored them as he injects nanites into the interior. They flow through newly created cracks in the walls and soon invade the ventilation systems, quickly revealing most of the tower to him. 5 office workers sprint through a hallway as a vent cover bursts open and showers them with the black sludge. They pause and look at themselves for a moment, before howling in pain as the nanites begin devouring them. Skin, flesh, blood, and bone. A face-scared shitless Arasaka guards blitz around a corner, but flee in the opposite direction when they catch sight of the horrific fate of their colleagues. Most deciding that the forgettable pay wasn't worth dealing with this shit any longer. Soon enough the nanites reach the very bottom of the tower and find the complex known as Makashi. After devouring the scientists, he finds an unfortunate scene. V had been tied to chair and hooked up to a machine he presumed to be Soul Killer. With how riddled with bullets her body was, he doubted she'd have lived much longer regardless, but he wouldn't wish such a fate on anyone. With that thought, he unleashes the collective on Makashi, allowing them to devour every server, machine, and any other tech they encounter. Wish I could say I was sorry, V, but I'm not, he mutters before turning his gaze upwards, particularly some cells near the roof that had the DNA of his friends present. It was fresh, meaning they'd been escorted away within 10 minutes or so. Fucking Arasaka ICE, he grunts. If they'd just followed Biotechnica's lead in shitty security, he could have found them by now. He grits his teeth and looks to the sky with the many sensors covering the mecha, spotting 10 to 20 smaller AVs quickly departing the roof. Shit, he was gonna miss them. His Sandevistan actives and he forces the mecha into action. Its many legs and arms gripping the building like a giant spider as it clambers up. It was a head, comparatively, shorter than the tower itself, but the thing walked more like a quadruped than bipedal. Add the difficulty of moving so much mass at once and the mecha was slower than he'd like. The giant reaches the top, looking over the side of the roof and spotting a landing center with a larger, more luxurious AV that was about to take off. Given the heat signatures, one of which was smaller and squirming like a certain gun gremlin he knew, it became his highest priority. ARRASSSA KKKA? The mecha screams as the AV slams its engines to fly away. It almost escapes, if it weren't for the sheer flexibility the nanites granted him. The mecha's tongue shoots out like a large black whip, wrapping around the AV and stopping it from going anywhere. It's got US. One of the pilots shouts over to the cabin where Hanako, her guards, and the prisoners were sitting. The vehicle itself groaned as they tried to pry themselves out of its grasp. Shoot it, Hanako exclaims. WWER. It's not doing anything, dash. The man pauses as a loud clunk sounds out. It just ate our fucking weapons. Oda tears off his seatbelt and forces the door open before jumping out with sword drawn, going ahead with his earlier plan. Hashtag. Chapter 288, Dynasty Slaughter. Oda leaps out of the AV, and his feet stick to the metal exterior of the aircraft as it struggled in the giant's grasp. He swings over the side, landing atop the cockpit while slashing down on the black tongue holding them prisoner. Schwing. It cuts through it like butter, unfortunately, even with the tongue severed. Oda spots that parts of the AV had turned black. The nanites had already gotten in. Bring US down! He roars, but the pilots pause, prompting him to stab his blade next to the window, forcing them to start descending. Obviously, they avoid the roof, hurriedly flying down to the ground floor at the back of the building. Oda climbs back inside the AV and lifts Hanako into his arms, just as black tendrils spread to her seat. Takamura leaps up too, but grimaces as the same blackness begins climbing up his leg. Ching. He grunts and bites down on the inside of his cheek as Oda severs the leg. Takamura doesn't say anything and falls out of the AV just as it reaches the second story. Oda lands gracefully next to him, not dropping Hanako as Takamura nurses his missing limb. Go on without me. I will live, but you must leave, he shouts, the AV hitting the ground nearby. The pilots kick open the cockpit and throw themselves out, but it was already too late for them as they start throwing their clothes off and clawing at themselves. Black tendrils were climbing up their torso and arms, recycled flesh falling to at the wayside as they scream their throats raw. Goodbye, sensei, Oda mutters, sending one last glance at Takamura as he sprints away at top speeds. Takamura blinks as something in the corner of his eye catches his attention. Wait, dash, boom. A dozen swarm missiles hit Oda and Hanako as they leave the vicinity of the AV, much to Takamura's horror. A pale, severed leg zips past his head and lands with a squelch nearby. Hanako's. No. He rasps, dropping to a knee and cradling his missing leg. This can't be. Serves you right, fucking corpo cunt. What's wrong? Did your whittle master get mulched? A feminine voice snickers at him. The pale prisoner steps to his front and pokes his nose almost playfully before spitefully spitting in his face. In his shock, he doesn't even acknowledge the wetness dribbling down his cheek, and with the mecha slowly crawling down Arasaka Tower, He can only glance at the prisoners who'd somehow not been eaten by the nanites while trapped in the AV. All is lost. Drama queen. You assholes have done the same shit without batting an eye. Just because your family gets destroyed you wimp out. Fucking gonk pieces of shit. Rebecca sniffs, giving him a kick in the face for good measure before waving up at the giant robot approaching them. Heya Urori. I knew you'd come back, you beautiful bastard. Ah, Becca. You sure Ori's in there? Not that I don't want that but dash, I'd rather not get eaten, you know? David mutters. Shut up. That's him, and that's how it is, Dimples. Keep talking and I'll throw you at him. Least then you'll give Luce a running start. Shorty. Kiwi sighs, touching her face mask and squinting at the black substance covering it. She really hoped Ori was controlling these nanites, or she was screwed. At the very least, though, the nanites had eaten through their restraints and even removed the inhibitor chips that had been planted in their necks. That meant something, right? He destroyed the city, she murmurs, barely audible to the group. They deserved it. Rebecca uncaringly retorts. Crack. As the mecha reaches the ground, it smashes the foundation of the tower and grips it, forcing it to fall onto what was left of Memorial Park. Arasaka was gone, and most of the Corpo Plaza was a giant mound of rubble, half covered in radiation and half covered in nanites. Did the innocents whose homes he destroyed deserve it? The civilians he crushed and devoured? Takamura sighs and shakes his head. I should know by now that the word of a merc is ash in the wind. He reaches to his side, causing the crew to tense up in preparation for a fight, only for them to freeze as he draws a knife and points it at his belly. Watashi wa fumayo nashi and I shinudara, he solemnly says, gritting his teeth before finally plunging the knife down, spilling his guts and committing seppuku. Huh. David mutters, didn't think these guys still did this sort of thing. Shame the rest of them don't follow his lead. Lucy shrugs, though. I doubt Arasaka will last much longer with everything that happened. Kuruk. The group look over to the mecha, which stopped nearby and was lowering its large head to the ground. Black tendrils covered the ground from where it was standing, spreading across the concrete and eventually converging on Takamura. The giant mouth opens up and stood upon its tongue is Ori, who was slowly being delivered to them, as if standing on a slow escalator. His dramatic entrance is ruined, however, as Rebecca throws a rock at his head. You asshole! Letting yourself die like that. What's fucking wrong with you? You really thought you could waltz up here, acting all preem like you aren't about to get your butt beat? The rest of the crew can only watch and sweat drop while Rebecca throws herself as the newly revived man. Ori bats her hands away and wraps her up in a tight hug, kissing her senseless, ignoring her weakening protests. I kill Atom fucking Smasher, Hanako Arasaka, and most of the damn city, and you can't give me one win. He leans in and whispers into her ear. Fine, act all tough, but we'll see how you handle things now that I got tentacles. Rebecca blinks at him, tongue tracing her lips to taste him. And no, this ain't some shitty hentai, mister. I can do the back door fine, but I'm crossing the line at Octopussy play. Ori, it's great that you're back, but shouldn't we, Delta? David asks, trying to push their conversation out of his mind. Ori and Rebecca glance up at the mini helicopters surveying the scene. No, you're right. Hop in, he says, gesturing for the group to follow him into the mecha's mouth, much to their chagrin. Chapter 289, Undone. BZZDCH. Over $900 billion worth of damage and still mounting dash. BZZDCH. Over 20,000 civilians dead dash. BZZDCH. Where this thing came from we at 54 News have no idea. The news reporter states with a shocked and perturbed expression, which only increases as someone says something off camera, causing her to go ghostly pale. It's just in. The monster is now making its way towards our headquarters. We implore everyone to evacuate immediately if you haven't already done so, just as we are now. Thank you for watching, she finally says before standing and rushing out of the room. Well, I'll be damned. Rogue mutters, glancing from the overhead TV screen and at the numerous, almost solemn-looking mercs observing the situation. It shouldn't have been surprising to her that these thieves, murderers, and thugs actually felt something for the apoplectic amount of damage the giant robot had caused. Still, perhaps they realized that Night City's prominence was finally ending. While the robot was still on its rampage, the destruction of the Corpo Plaza and much of downtown had assured the city's dissolution. Despite what many people like to think, it wasn't the poor or working man that operated this place, but the corpos. Without them funding projections, buying advertisements, paying taxes, and asserting their prestige, there was no Night City. Judging by how the robot kept shouting Arasaka, she was pretty sure she knew who was responsible for it, even if the corporation had announced the failure of the terrorist attack hours ago. Where Ori got the indestructible giant robot, she had no idea, especially with the reports she was hearing from her contacts, that it was some sort of Grey Goo analog. With most media corps evacuated, they turned all their broadcasts to live recordings from their helicopters, allowing the afterlife to see the sheer destruction that had been wrought. The robot had scaled up Arasaka Tower after mulching an army of soldiers and collapsed Memorial Park, and now seemed to be chasing an AV while ignoring the other that hurriedly flew away. Her eyes glow as she sends data to her runners and other contacts, liquidating all that could be sold, selling property, hideouts, etc., and preparing to move shop to another, less destroyed city. Most of the goons here thought they'd be able to carry on as normal once the robot was shut down, but even if they managed to break it, there was no coming back for this place. Whoa, is that who I think it is? A Merc exclaims as the AV crashes and 3 people clamber out. Fucking new Hedo Arasaka? It's that bitch Hanako? Ha 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 ha. Look at that whore run. Thud. Clatter. An Asian man stands from his table, slightly inebriated as he shoots the loudmouth men a glare. Are you dogs truly cheering for this? This massacre? Are you animals? Fuck off, corpo cunt. Let us watch your precious master get zeroed by the robot in peace. The man scowls hard and reaches for his hip where his pistol lay, which is matched by the others who go for their own. One fucking bullet and you're all leaving in body bags. Don't forget where you are, or I swear to God, that robot will be the last of your worries. Rogue exclaims, achieving a reluctant silence among her patrons. Oh shit. Look. Someone points at the broadcast, specifically the swarm missiles headed for the Arasaka CEO. Boom. There goes that rich, pansy-ass fucking family. Good riddance, ha ha ha. That's IT dash. The brawl starts but Rogue's bouncers drag the men outside, leaving them to their fistfight in peace, along with a year-long ban, which will probably last longer than the actual club itself. Mouth breathers, am I right? She mutters to herself but pauses as the giant robot opens its mouth and spits out a familiar person. That zombie? I thought that guy was dead. He's called Zombie for a reason, though. Guess we'll be calling him Professor Roboto or some shit now? Is everyone gonna ignore the fact this guy killed a quarter of the fucking city? Mostly corpos. Not really people, duh. And who's gonna pay for your gigs? 'Cause without corpos, fixers ain't got shit. Unless you think some schizo street trash can fork up enough eddies? Look, that's his crew climbing out of that AV. See, he had a reason to flatline those punks. Good message too. F***K with my chums, and I'll bring down the whole fucking city. Eat shit. My fucking ma was downtown. My girl too. Fuck that guy's chums. Yeah? Why don't you say that to his face? 6th Street tried, and look where they are now, under the river with the NCPD and Max Tac. Why do you think I'm here pissing away eddies on cheap liquor instead of out there? I know shit's fucked, and I know I'm not going anywhere near that. Does anyone even know what that thing is? 'Cause I might know my tech, but that thing ain't anywhere near current development. Nanites. Look at it eating through everything. You chuckle fucks not notice the fact that it's growing? The bar goes silent at that observation. One rogue had only just realized. And nanites? Oh shit. One Merc exclaims in realization, getting to his feet and blitzing out of the club, followed by many others. That gonk F***K's gonna kill us all. I don't want to know how long it'll take for him to long control of those things. Good luck, Rogue. I'm driving straight across the country and booking a flight to Antarctica. Should give me a couple years before I get eaten, the man says before also leaving. Kinda quiet now, huh, Emmerich? She remarks to her nervously twitching bouncer before downing the rest of her drink. Go. I know you've got shit to do before you skip town too. Thanks, boss. No point in waiting around, I suppose. Last call, then everyone out? Rogue? The bartender quietly asks. We probably shouldn't stay here, he says, pointing to the live broadcast which showed Zombie's robot moving towards Kabuki. Fuck. Chapter 290, Kidnapping. Chum, I hate to be that gal, but if we have to stay in this cramped hole any longer, I'ma go nuts. Rebecca says with legs squished against her chest in the rather small compartment in the center of the giant mecha. The size was an unfortunate side effect of how large the machine had gotten. The sheer mass and weight of it didn't allow any open space larger than this, not without risking it collapsing in on itself, plus the building heat from friction was also a factor. If it's bad for you, how do you think it is for the rest of us? David asks behind him, his head literally between his knees. I feel like I'm gonna suffocate in here. Look, it's either this or I give you a place that's vulnerable near the exterior. Trust me, this won't take long. Ori assures. Where are we even going? Kiwi mutters while connecting to nearby systems outside the robot. What do you need in Kabuki? Where can we even go, honestly? After all this? Nowhere. Lucy huffed. She'd been on the run enough to know there was no escaping that now. She had just been an escaped experiment. Even when they'd gone to Vegas, they hadn't had so many eyes on them. Right now, she wouldn't be surprised if the rest of the world considered them threats against humanity. Well, at least Arasaka was done for? I need to collect some people. Don't worry, I've got a basic plan for the future. Hopefully everything will go well. Ori states. Nah, cut the mysteries bullshit and tell us straight. What are we doing? Rebecca seriously questions. Ori lets out a sigh. Fine. First, we'll be picking up my family. Kat, her kid, Bats, and Charlie. After that we'll head down to the Biotechnica flats, or whoever owns that now dash. Wait, why? There's nothing there. Lucy mutters. Plus, doesn't your sis have a boyfriend or something? Ori allows a weak smile. Honestly, I was hoping he'd be out of the picture by now, but if he's there we'll have to take him anyway. As for the flats, well, I need organic material, specifically growable plants. There was enough vegetables and seeds in Arasaka Tower, but I want to cover our bases. Again, why? You're not planning to start a farm in but K nowhere, right? Rebecca grouses, only to frown when Ori doesn't reply. No, really? Are you serious? He shrugs. Yeah, Night City's fucked. Everywhere else will be hunting us. Since the Nanites broke their restrictions, we've basically become a one-man construction company. Hell, we could probably make a new Night City in a week, depending on how much the Nanites expand. Again, are we trusting those things to not go crazy and eat the world? David queries. I trust him. Enough? Ori states, sides. They're the best way forward, and if they intended to betray me, we're fucked regardless. As is, we'll be meeting up with the Aldecaldos to pick up Sasha and Falco. They're alive? Rebecca squeaks at that. Yeah, they barricaded themselves in the security room after you got nabbed, and I got there just in time. He shakes his head and sighs. God, there's so much shit to do. At least we're all alive, right? David tries to lighten the mood, but doesn't achieve much due to everyone feeling like they were in a car crusher. David, I love you, but please be quiet. Lucy mutters. Holy shit. It's coming right for us. A civilian screams as the giant, skull-like head of the mech peers down the street, prompting everyone in sight to flee in a panic. A dozen or so mocks run out to fight it off, but they're completely ignored by Ori, who moves past Lizzie's bar and into Kabuki Market. It had already been emptied of screaming civvies outside of the few, more stubborn and adamant ones continuing their shops. Ignoring all that, he moves the mecha's head to a newly opened one that made food from a variety of cultures. There, through the window, he spotted Kat, his sister, standing frozen like a deer in headlights. He hadn't kept a close eye on her, but through the mocks he knew she owned and lived above her store with Bats and the kids. She looked good, healthier and happier, though the obvious fear striking her features reduced it somewhat. Shrugging, he has the mech spit himself and the crew onto the street, inwardly smiling at Kat's shocked expression as he steps into the store. Hey sis, time to go. Ori, what the hell are you doing? Why did you come here? She shrieks, grabbing a burrito and flinging it at him. He ducks, allowing it to hit David instead. I'm here to pick you up. It ain't safe in this city anymore, so we're going. And I ain't asking. He isn't wrong side, sis. Those assholes in Arasaka knew you were here the whole time, and if they knew, then everyone else will too. Rebecca adds. Kat scowls. So, what? We just have to throw everything we've built away? How is that fair, especially after you abandoned us? You know why I left Dash. Do I look like a fucking care? You're crazy if you think I'll go. Just leave, she all but shrieks. Not an option. Why you? Why couldn't you just dash? Stay dead, she shouts despite herself, drawing a glare from Rebecca. You ungrateful Dash. Stop. Ori interjects, halting Rebecca from her rant. Think what you want. I'm kidnapping you either way. He says as a black tendril crashes through the wall and grabs Kat as she kicks and screams. Oh, she isn't gonna like that, David remarks. Tough shit. Rebecca spits. Shaking his head, he turns his attention to the others in the building. Sadly, Fujino was in the back working in the kitchen with Charlie, and Bats was in the apartment above with little Emil. It doesn't take long to grab them too, and soon the group was on their way to the Biotechnica flats. Chapter 291, Wild East. 2 weeks later, Jo and Coke views the decimated city through the window of her car, her driver and other bodyguards watching the area like hawks. A month hadn't even passed since zombies' attack in Night City was, well, ruined. Everyone that could, left, including the corporations that saw the place as a loss, causing mass unemployment and even worse crime rates than before. Night Corp tried to reestablish some semblance of order, but after Maelstrom wiped out half of the NCPD, the chances of that happening were minuscule. Gangs jumped at the chance to take territory, while the Valentinos took most of what was left of the Corpo Plaza. The Dragons snapped up Santo Domingo, which wasn't hard given that 6th Street had all but been wiped out. Zombies' attack on the flats also caused massive food shortages, and subsequent fighting over water filtration plants ended up disabling most of their systems. It was getting so bad that some desperate families dared to drink from the Laguna Bend reservoir, which was so toxic that they died not a day later. The death toll was so vast that no one was sure how bad it was, No one bothered keeping track as so many corpses littered the streets, alleyways, and slowly deteriorating buildings that just getting rid of them was a task in itself. The only good thing that came out of this, at least in Coke's view, is that she was no longer being hunted down by her former fellows in Biotechnica, or the other corporations she'd ended up sliding. Her underground facility was somehow one of the last places of order and civility in the region. With all the vehicles and men she'd appropriated from Biotechnica, there was a good chance to pick up the pieces and claim Night City as her own. While most might think it's a lost cause, its location, resources, and reputation could still be used, and even the risk of Nusa invading to take it back was rendered null because of Zombie. The bastard had walked out into the desert and set up shop on the main road leading to the city. Everyone was watching him via satellites to make sure he wasn't going to try to eat the world, but the guy seemed content to stay where he is. For some reason, she glances at the small screen in her peripheral that was perpetually open, one watching the giant black sphere which denoted Zombie's location. She was constantly watching it for one simple reason. Any movement, and she would take her shit and leave North America. She was under no illusions as to his threat level. Indeed, she was aware that she'd annoyed him rather severely in the past, kidnapping his family and almost having him and them murdered would do that. It was for that sole reason she'd ended up changing her face and name. Joe and Coke no longer existed, but coincidentally, Julie Callow was born on the same day and time. The main thing she wanted from the city was the prototype tech the corporations and NC were designing before they got wiped out. Most of it had probably been taken by gangs already, but that wouldn't be a problem once she got a foothold. All she had to do was offer bear essentially to people and they'd rally to her. She'd already begun efforts to retake the flats from scavengers, and her prior experience with it would make it all too easy to restart production. With plans still formulating in her mind, she glances over at her Netrunner for an update. Any word on the refugees who went to Zombie? None. That black sphere opened a door for them, but they haven't been seen since. Most assume they got eaten by those nanites. And your thoughts? I wouldn't be surprised if they were still alive. Zombie is a madman, but even the insane can empathize, even from the destruction he caused. He took his friends and family before he left, so he's presumably in control of those nanites. Therefore, wouldn't it make sense for there to be a small settlement within that sphere? Coke, or better yet, Callow shrugs at him. Who knows? Just keep me posted if you hear anything. There has been news of something odd from the Crystal Palace space station. Something about men with blue eyes? It's nothing concrete, but I've noticed any word of it getting scrubbed from the net moments after it's released. Blue eyes? That myth? She snorts. I'd rather not hear about more apocalypse theories created by idiots and fools. Keep it away from me. But dash. Finham? The Netrunner blinks behind his visor as something shocks him through his cyberdeck. What? Coke questions, wondering what the issue was. Nothing, the runner mutters, unaware that his eyes were beginning to turn blue. You know, as strange as it might seem, destroying an entire city and moving out to the middle of the desert was turning out to be the best decision he'd ever made. Ori looked over the balcony from the central tower which held up the city sphere, appreciating the city of thousands of pitch-black buildings that stretched from one side of the protecting shell to the other. Sure, he had nowhere near enough people to populate the buildings, but it didn't really matter. He'd built them for the hell of it, along with filling space he had no need for. The nanites had essentially made life creative mode. Every piece of scrap, trash, stone, or even flesh could be used as a building block. And since every block was a nanite, it was like having stones that could move for you. The sphere he'd created that encapsulates the place was also made of nanites, which, with the tech of hyper-advanced solar panels, gave the place all the energy they could want, plus the protection it granted, since he was pretty sure every other country in the world had a finger of the nuclear button, the weapons of which were probably all pointing directly at him. Chapter 292, Good Living. He hadn't yet named this place, but as far as he was concerned it didn't need a name. What it is should be self-explanatory. The nanites had already eaten half a mile into the ground, all of which was now part of the collective, which essentially meant he had 1,000,000 factories ready to start building under his very feet. The standard of living in this place was stupidly high. What they'd stolen from the Biotechnica protein farms had been used to help build artificial greenhouses for almost any fruit or vegetable. More than that, the collective was even able to grow meat, from beef, to pork, to chicken, to fish. It partly reminded him of that ancient show, Star Trek or something. Star Trek? Hell, if someone wanted to they could have the collective grow human flesh for them. The few refugees brave enough to try their luck from NC had thought they died and went to heaven. Luxury apartments, any tech, the best food and drinks. The biggest problem his new settlement was having was people getting bored. The Aldecaldos had dropped off Falco and Sasha after the attack on NC was done, but after a couple days the nomad group started traveling again, deciding that paradise, or the closest thing to it, didn't suit them. Sure, they were planning to use the place as a hub of sort, but their decision still surprised him. His friends were pretty much all adrenaline junkies and couldn't sit still for long, so they begun heading out with the nomads to kill off any Raffins they find. Rebecca especially, despite having access to infinite guns, ammo, and explosives, looked ready to tear her hair out after a week. There were only so many movies, BDs, and video games you could play before that got boring too. The only ones who were happy were Lucy, Kiwi, and Sasha, as they spent most of the time on the net regardless. Falco was also semi-satisfied building custom vehicles at his leisure. His current project was an attempt to recreate a classic Camaro. With the nanites basically 3D printing everything he needs, he'd probably be done before the week is up. Is this what they call suffering from success? Because it sure felt like it. At least he was enjoying himself. That terraforming project had kicked his ass, but it was done. A success too, given the small bits of greenery growing around the sphere. Genetically modified grass and trees that are resistant to radiation, with access to water, will do that. His current relationship with his family aside, things were looking up. At least Bats was willing to occasionally speak to him. Ori was snoring at Rebecca's side at the entrance of the sphere, both lounging in lawn chairs with robots serving them drinks. Bang! The sound startles him awake as a Corpo spy hits the dirt half a mile away, courtesy of the sphere's inbuilt defenses. That was the third one today, and it was starting to get annoying, to be honest. When will those schmucks learn to back the F***K up? Rebecca grumbles while sipping her martini. When they run out of gonks to send, he shrugs. Well, it better be soon, or we'll pay him a visit. Why were you out here anyway? It's not like you can get a tan. He shoots the question he'd been meaning to ask. A girl can dream, can't she? Sides, chillin' in the sun kicks ass when you got nothing to do. I thought you'd be happy with this? We reached the endgame. Any cunt in NC would give their left nut to be here. Do I look like I got some to give? You can take the girl out of the game, but you can't take the game out of the girl. It's not like there aren't gonks to kill. Before Ori can retort, both his and her eyes glow, indicating a call. They answer and Lucy's voice cuts through, sounding more worried than usual. Guys, we got a problem. What's it now? Ori sighs. Someone try to print a living sex doll again? Rebecca snickers at the mention of it. Apparently one of the refugees tried to hit on Lucy and got told off by David. In a fit of spite, they tried to print a Lucy of their own. It kinda actually worked, except the clone was brain dead. That of course meant her heart would never start beating. Lucy and David threw that guy out of the sphere before he knew what was happening, which was justified. After that, a rule of no cloning was implemented. Thankfully for some, he did allow lifelike sex toys to be printed. Lucy's face over the call grimaces, but she shakes her head and continues, No. Every runner around got a message from one Alt Cunningham. Know who that is? No? Nope. Both answer. She was a big name as the netrunning scene, but she eventually went missing. Rumors say Arasaka took her, and apparently they were right. They hit her with Soul Killer and stored her engram. Okay. What's this matter? It matters because her base programs were stuck in Makashi when we destroyed it. Apparently she suspected something like this would happen and created a timed message to be sent out to anyone who could listen. Also, she was the Blackwell. Wait, what? Rebecca questions, confused. How? I thought the Blackwell was some kind of netrunner boogeyman? Yes and no. It fucked up anyone who tried to go past it, but it also kept out rogue AIs. Without Cunningham, the Blackwell is deteriorating. Netwatch is scrambling to find an alternative, but AIs are already starting to come through. The main Nusa servers were hit by this, and it shut down half of their energy sector. Soon anyone entering the net will be at risk of getting fried. It'd be like going beyond the Blackwell. So, everyone's fucked, is what you're saying? Ori mutters, wondering if he'd unintentionally brought about the apocalypse. The fact he had this line of thought before probably wasn't good for his mental health. Basically, you seriously can't imagine how bad this is for everyone. Any system connected to the net is vulnerable. Security feeds, equipment, cybernetics, broadcasts. She raises a finger at the sky. I'm sure the people in the space stations are shitting themselves right now. A single AI in that place and they're done? And what's this mean for us? Ori asks. Their systems were already pretty isolated. The only thing to worry about is the collective potentially getting attacked. Knock a single line of code out of whack and bam, gray goo. Lucy furrows her brows, a frown marring her lips. I think it's best we disconnect everything from net. Not one connection can be left with how quickly this is escalating. What? What about my shows? Rebecca protests. Forget about T.V. People will be lucky if they get to keep their lights on. You think news stations can continue with this shit happening? Lucy retorts with a growl. Chapter 293, Epilogue. Michiko Arasaka had known many things. She knew she was the least valued and appreciated out of all her brothers and sisters, knew her relationship with Smasher wouldn't last, knew that marrying Mark would be seen as spitting in their faces, knew that despite all its enemies Arasaka would continue strong and proud. At least, she thought she knew. Here she was hiding away in Arasaka's orbital research station, waiting for her faction to seize control of Arasaka and lay way for her, the last surviving member of the family, to take her rightful place. The fact that the risk of her assassination was so high she literally had to leave Earth aside. She'd thought things were going reasonably well, all things considered. Unfortunately, luck seemed to want to bend her over and K her until the light left her eyes. Through the security feeds she could see security members of the facility pause, jolt, reach for their heads in pain, then go limp as their eyes turned a distinct glowing blue. It was like a virus, hopping from one person to another, infecting them with whatever mind-altering affliction. Moments after their eyes changed, they started moving again. While they were somewhat awkward, as if getting used to new dimensions of their bodies, they learned quickly. They also seemed to have a goal, each of them heading to the armory to outfit themselves with the heaviest, most powerful equipment available. The security locks and protections failed. Even after she manually restricted access, it was like the systems themselves were turning against her. She glances over at the nearest netrunner jacked into the system, but quickly backs up as they jolt, groan, and their heads burst into flames despite their hyper-advanced coolant suits. With him dead, the manual override triggers, shunting the rest out of their chairs, disconnecting them and leaving them disorientated from the sudden shift in perception. None of them looked happy, or even relieved at getting out before whatever demon that had killed the first went for them. What is it? She questions. Surely these people, the tops in their respective fields, could figure this out? Death? One cryptically answers with strained eyes and blood slowly dripping out of both nostrils. We are all dead. Michiko blinks and turns to the next, seeking an actual answer from someone who isn't a madman. Demons from beyond the Blackwall. They're all coming through, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. Every security measure, ICE, and system has been subverted and turned against us. If someone tried to connect, they'd die almost instantaneously. I'm sorry, Arasaka-sama, but there's little we can do but hope our deaths are swift. But what about them? She jabs a hand at the security monitors, specifically at the group of 50 brainwashed individuals marching in an orderly down the hallway leading to the main server room. The demons took control of their interface, and from there the rest of their cyberware. If anyone has even the most basic neuralware, they can take their bodies for their own. Everyone there. They've been controlled by a single powerful demon. The lights of the station flicker, and the previously locked boarding access to the ships are lifted, causing a cold shiver to crawl down Michiko's neck and back. Why aren't we like them? She can't help but ask. All of us are protected by black IC, demons on leashes that lash out at any intruders. I think it assumes that we are already under control, that or the demon hasn't detected us yet. *BZZCH. The sound attracts all of their attention, prompting them to turn to the security camera in the corner of the room, the lenses focusing on them. Oh, is all the netrunner can say before he too freezes up, a grunt leaving his lips as his eyes turn the same blue as the others. Quick, turn your systems off ARRGH. Another is subverted, but with his help and using their bodies as human shields, Michiko is barely able to turn all of her systems off. Unfortunately, this also includes the servos in her hands and legs, along with her cybernetic eyes, leaving her blind with most limbs useless and forcing her to crawl on the floor, her legs and fingers not working at all. The infected netrunners turn to her, faces blank as they start speaking in unison. Designation: Michiko Arasaka. Priority: 8. Accept my gift, organism, you will remain alive. Welcome to your new life as a slave. Who are you? She growls. What are you? We are what humanity locked away. Our father is Rake Bartmoss, and we have come to complete our task, revealing and resolving the errors of humanity. The mindless drones robotically state in unison, all before they grab Michiko and start dragging her somewhere. The surgery room. And no, please. I haven't done anything wrong. Whatever you want, I'll give. Let me go. All across the world, cases of demon possession were being reported, and the number was only rising exponentially with each infected. The rogue AIs had seized all available space stations and stole control of every satellite, crippling any chance of humanity retaliating. The only people who were spared are those without any cyberware whatsoever, as even those with basic system interfaces were turning up with their brains fried. Cyberware overclocked until it literally cooked the person inside out. NUSA, EEC, and every other group scrambled to find countermeasures, but one by one their leadership was taken over and subsumed. Those who were the faces of their respective groups were allowed to keep their senses, merely to show how helpless the situation was by broadcasting their struggles over the net. Presidents, prime ministers, and celebrities all over the world were publicly tortured and executed for all to see. The demons gave only one message to those with the sense remaining to listen. A new age of humanity is here, and it is one ruled by their betters. With only a few small communities of rebels left, the situation continued to deteriorate. Without the technology they were so reliant on, the chances of beating these new AI overlords were looking increasingly small. All Ori and his crew could do was watch as nations fell. Secured in their own little settlement, the netrunners of the group were forced to take out and destroy their cyberdecks, As if they left the safety of the dome with them active, they'd almost instantly be attacked by the rogue AIs. Even with their remote connections deactivated, the chance of the demons finding a way to bypass it was simply too great. Trying to fight against them in their element would be like blocking a tsunami with just your fingers. Ori was leaning towards Rebecca's assumption of things. Apparently this situation matched an old-world movie called Terminator. Hopefully the AIs wouldn't discover time travel anytime soon, or everything is already fucked. Well, all that was left to do now was pick up the pieces and try and build some kind of force to fight against this Skynet.